In the pitch-black void over the Mediterranean Sea, an F/A-18 Super Hornet is returning from a grueling 6-hour combat air patrol. Suddenly, the pilot's master caution panel illuminates like a Christmas tree. A catastrophic mechanical failure has triggered a severe engine fire in the starboard General Electric F414 turbofan. The pilot immediately secures fuel to the engine, pulls the fire suppression handle, and initiates an emergency single-engine recovery. They slam the crippled, burning jet onto the deck of the USS George H.W. Bush and catch the arresting wire. The flight deck crash and salvage crews instantly swarm the aircraft, dousing the smoldering titanium exhaust nozzles with aqueous film-forming foam. The pilot survives, but the $60 million fighter jet is a scorched, warped, structurally compromised disaster. If this aircraft belonged to a land-based Air Force squadron, it would immediately be towed into a climate-controlled hangar. A specialized depot-level maintenance team would be flown in, or the jet would be disassembled, packed onto a heavy transport plane and shipped back to a specialized manufacturing facility in the United States. It would be out of the fight for months. But this is the United States Navy. An aircraft carrier operating in hostile waters cannot simply pull over to a service station, and it cannot afford to lose 10% of its strike capability every time an engine catches fire or an avionics suite shorts out in the corrosive salt air. The Navy does not ship its broken planes home. It brings the factory to the ocean. In this deep dive documentary, we are going to bypass the sanitized recruitment brochures and dissect the brutal industrial reality of the Aircraft Intermediate Maintenance Department, universally known as AIMD. We will take you deep into the massive, subterranean factory hidden beneath the flight deck of a supercarrier. We will expose the terrifying physics of swapping a massive jet engine while the ship is pitching in 20-foot seas. We will explore the highly classified microscopic clean rooms, where sailors repair million-dollar radar arrays using soldering irons while being subjected to the violent vibration of the ship's propellers. And we will detail the unprecedented historical repair of that scorched Super Hornet on the USS George H.W. Bush, proving that when the supply chain fails, the sailors of the carrier air wing will literally rebuild their fighter jets from scratch. This is the unvarnished reality of the most high-stakes, exhausting repair shop on planet Earth. To understand the agonizing daily reality of carrier maintenance, you must first understand the sheer scale of the environment. The flight deck of a supercarrier is an incredibly hostile place for delicate aerospace engineering. A fighter jet parked on the roof is subjected to a relentless barrage of highly corrosive salt spray, searing ultraviolet radiation, and extreme thermal fluctuations. Furthermore, the violent biomechanics of launching from a steam or electromagnetic catapult and violently snagging an arresting wire upon landing subjects the airframes of the F/A-18 Super Hornets and F-35C Lightning IIs to massive, continuous G-forces. They are literally being shaken and pounded apart every single day. The operational readiness of Carrier Air Wing 9 is not guaranteed by the titanium in the jets. It is entirely dependent on the exhaustingly precise labor of the aviation, machinists, mates, and aviation electronics technicians working around the clock. The heart of this massive repair operation is AIMD. This is not a small workshop tucked away in a corner. It is a sprawling, multi-deck industrial complex occupying the aft sections of the hangar bay and extending deep into the hull. AIMD is commanded by a senior officer known as the Maintenance Officer, or MO, and it is divided into highly specialized divisions. When an aircraft breaks, the organizational level O-level mechanics in the fighter squadron attempt to fix it on the flight deck. If a component is completely destroyed or requires deep internal repair, it is removed from the jet and handed over to the intermediate level I-level technicians in AIMD. Let us start with the muscle, the jet engines. When a Super Hornet sucks a massive seabird into its intake during a low-level flight, or when a turbine blade suffers a microscopic stress fracture, the entire General Electric F414 turbofan engine must be ripped out of the aircraft. The squadron mechanics pull the engine on the hangar deck using heavy hydraulic lifts. The engine, which weighs roughly 2,500 pounds and is roughly 13 feet long, is carefully mounted onto a specialized transportation rail. It is then dragged into AIMD's Power Plants Division, commonly referred to as the jet shop. This is a heavy industrial space filled with massive overhead cranes, pneumatic tools, and the overwhelming smell of JP5 aviation fuel and synthetic lubricating oil. Repairing a jet engine at sea is an exercise in extreme physical precision executed under the worst possible conditions. The sailors must carefully tear down the engine, removing thousands of high-temperature titanium bolts and fragile compressor blades. They must use specialized borescopes to inspect the internal combustion chambers for thermal warping. But they are not doing this in a stable, concrete building. The carrier is constantly moving. If the ship is executing a high-speed evasive maneuver or sailing through heavy weather, the deck pitches and rolls violently. The mechanics must time their movements, carefully lowering a heavy, perfectly balanced turbine disc into place during the brief, stable moments between the ocean swells. If the ship violently lurches and a mechanic drops a heavy wrench into the exposed compressor section, they have just caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage and potentially ruined the engine. Once the engine is rebuilt, the Navy does not simply bolt it back into the jet and hope the pilot survives the launch. The engine must be rigorously and brutally tested. At the very aft end of the carrier, extending out over the fan tail, is the jet engine test cell. This is a heavily armored, acoustically dampened, open-air enclosure. The rebuilt engine is mounted into a massive test stand and hooked up to diagnostic computers. The sailors seal the heavy blast doors and the engine is ignited. They push the throttles to maximum military power and eventually full afterburner. The roar is apocalyptic. The thrust generated by the engine is directed completely out into the open air behind the ship. The technicians run the engine for hours, monitoring fuel pressure, exhaust gas temperatures, and vibration metrics, ensuring the rebuilt turbofan can handle the absolute violence of a catapult launch before they ever install it back into a fighter jet. While the jet shop handles the heavy metal, a completely different, highly sensitive war is being fought in the avionics divisions of AIMD. Modern fighter jets, particularly the F-35C and the EA-18G Growler, are essentially flying supercomputers. Their capabilities are defined by complex, highly classified phased array radars, electronic warfare jammers, and optical targeting pods. When these delicate electronic components break, they cannot be fixed with a wrench and a hammer. The components are pulled from the aircraft and brought deep into the ship to specialized micro-miniature or 2M repair labs. These labs are a stark contrast to the rest of the ship. They are immaculately clean, climate-controlled, static-free environments. Sailors working in these spaces must wear specialized anti-static grounding straps to prevent microscopic electrical charges from destroying sensitive microchips. The work requires agonizing precision. Imagine attempting to solder a microscopic circuit board under a high-powered magnifying glass. Now imagine trying to maintain that perfectly steady hand while the entire steel deck beneath your chair is constantly vibrating from the massive main reduction gears spinning the ship's propellers just a few decks below. The avionics technicians are repairing million-dollar radar modules using surgical tools in an environment that is constantly shaking. It is a testament to the intense, rigorous training provided by the Navy that these sailors can successfully rebuild the digital brains of the air wing while sailing through a typhoon. But even with this massive industrial capability, an aircraft carrier cannot physically store every single spare part for an air wing of 60 aircraft. Space is at an absolute premium. When a critical component breaks and there is no replacement in the ship's supply storerooms, the carrier does not turn around and sail back to San Diego. The Navy relies on its massive, highly choreographed logistical lifeline, the Underway Replenishment, or UNREP. The carrier matches speed and heading with a massive supply-class combat support ship. While fuel is transferred via heavy hoses, critical aviation spare parts are transferred via vertical replenishment. MH-60S Seahawk helicopters lift heavy pallets from the supply ship and drop them directly onto the flight deck of the moving carrier. If the carrier urgently requires a highly specific classified component, such as a replacement targeting pod or a specialized engine sensor, and the supply ship does not have it, the Navy initiates a high-priority logistical evolution known as a Carrier Onboard Delivery, or COD. A C-2 Greyhound or a CMV-22 Osprey transport aircraft will fly hundreds of miles from a friendly shore base, carrying the specific part and occasionally highly specialized civilian technical experts. The COD lands directly on the carrier, offloads the critical component, and immediately launches back into the sky. The entire, massive logistical architecture of the United States Navy will bend to ensure that the mechanics in AIMD get the exact piece of metal or silicon they need to get a broken fighter jet back onto the flight schedule. This relentless culture of self-sufficiency and the refusal to ground aircraft was pushed to its absolute breaking point during the historic incident aboard the USS George H.W. Bush in late 2022. When that FA-18 Super Hornet landed with catastrophic fire damage, standard naval doctrine dictated that the jet was effectively struck from the books. The intense heat from the engine fire had scorched and severely warped the external titanium skin panels, the starboard engine bay doors, and the internal structural bulkheads. The structural integrity of the aircraft was completely compromised. It was considered a depot-level repair, far beyond the capability of the sailors deployed on the ship. But the Air Wing Commander and the senior maintenance officers refused to accept the loss of a strike fighter in the middle of a deployment. They initiated a massive, unprecedented coordination effort with the fleet readiness centers back in the United States. Engineers on the mainland reviewed the digital damage reports and high-resolution photographs. They determined that if the ship possessed the right raw materials and specialized tools, the repair was theoretically possible. The Navy utilized its COD aircraft and supply helicopters to fly massive sheets of aerospace-grade titanium and specialized riveting tools directly to the carrier in the Mediterranean. For the next 33 days, the sailors of AIMD and the squadron mechanics worked around the clock in agonizing, relentless shifts. They carefully drilled out the scorched rivets, physically removing the warped titanium panels. They had to hand fabricate replacement structural ribs, meticulously bending and shaping the raw metal to match the exact aerodynamic curvature of the fuselage. They essentially rebuilt the entire starboard engine bay of the Super Hornet from the inside out, utilizing highly specialized structural adhesives and heavy-duty riveting. Every single step had to be executed with absolute zero-defect perfection. If the new panels were misaligned by even a fraction of a millimeter, The immense aerodynamic stress of a supersonic flight or the violent deceleration of an arrested landing would rip the jet apart in midair. On the 33rd day, the repair was complete. The pilot strapped back into the cockpit, taxied the rebuilt jet onto the catapult, and launched off the bow. The Super Hornet re-entered the combat rotation. The sailors of the George H.W. Bush proved that the United States Navy possesses the staggering ability to execute major depot-level aerospace manufacturing in the middle of the ocean while the factory is moving at 30 knots. However, the reality of carrier maintenance in the modern era is becoming increasingly grim. The United States Navy is currently facing a massive systemic manpower crisis. They are short tens of thousands of enlisted sailors. The highly technical, specialized ratings, the aviation mechanics and avionics technicians, are stretched agonizingly thin. The senior, experienced petty officers are forced to work grueling 14-hour shifts while simultaneously trying to train junior, inexperienced sailors who arrived on the ship lacking critical hands-on diagnostic skills. The work is physically brutal, the environment is constantly hostile, and the civilian sector offers massive salaries to anyone with military aviation maintenance experience. The Navy is bleeding its most talented mechanics. This manpower shortage is compounded by the unrelenting, punishing operational tempo. Aircraft carriers are being deployed for 8, 9, or even 10 months at a time to counter crises in the Red Sea and the Western Pacific. The longer the carrier stays at sea, the more rapidly the aircraft degrade, and the harder the exhausted sailors must work just to keep the jets from falling out of the sky. When the carrier finally returns to port, the accumulated wear and tear on the ship and the aircraft requires massive multi-year overhaul periods in the shipyards, further reducing the number of operational carriers available and trapping the Navy in a vicious cycle of overworking the remaining fleet. The ability of an aircraft carrier to repair itself at sea is the ultimate strategic advantage of the United States Navy. It is the reason American carriers can project power anywhere on the globe without asking for permission to use foreign air bases. But that incredible capability is not guaranteed by the massive budget of the Pentagon or the advanced technology of the F-35C. The lethality of the carrier air wing is entirely dependent on the grease-covered hands, the sleep-deprived focus, and the relentless, grim determination of the sailors working in the subterranean factory of AIMD. They are the unseen, unsung mechanics who fight a daily, desperate war against the corrosive salt air and the brutal physics of naval aviation to ensure that when the president orders an airstrike, the jets actually fly. If this unvarnished deep dive into the mechanical grit, the terrifying logistics of the jet shop, and the massive human endurance required to operate an aircraft carrier changed your perspective on naval aviation, I have a vital request for you. Please subscribe to the Tactical Chow channel. We refuse to read you sanitized public relations brochures. We dissect the brutal engineering, the systemic failures, and the massive human sacrifices that truly dictate global military supremacy. I would also highly appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It acts as the arresting cable that helps this documentary avoid the restrictive YouTube algorithm and reach a wider audience of engineering and military history enthusiasts. Finally, leave a comment below. I want to know, do you believe the Navy's reliance on at-sea repair is a sustainable model given the current massive shortages in skilled manpower? Or is the fleet pushing its mechanics to a breaking point that will eventually result in